My name is Dominica Murphy. I'm the Community Director of Surround Health, and we wanted to welcome you to Surround Health's second webinar in our professional development series called Advancing Your Healthcare Career. So just a couple of things for you to keep in mind during the webinar. We will be taking questions at the end of the webinar, so if any type of question comes up for Lisa, please type them right into the questions section in your webinar control panel to the right of your screen, and we will get to them at the end. We will also be tweeting during the webinar, so if you are on Twitter, please use the hashtag #SHWebinar. And if for some reason any questions arise, please email us at communitymanager@surroundhealth.net. And also, we do ask that at the end of the webinar, you do complete your feedback survey. So we do have a wonderful webinar planned for you today with Lisa Kanda. Lisa is the President and Chief Results Officer at LK Corporate Advisors, is a business marketing strategist, executive and personal branding coach, and social media consultant and trainer. She focuses her work on helping companies, solo and entrepreneurs and individuals break through obstacles to their achieving success by providing the tools to realize improved results for them in their professional and personal lives. Lisa is a co-host of the blog talk show radio 30-Minute Business Dig and is a contributing writer to Jersey Shore Woman newspaper, where she was noted as an entrepreneurial woman on the move. Her company recently won a Bronze Astra Award from the New Jersey Communications Advertising and Marketing Association in the self-promotion category. She's immediate past president of the New Jersey Communications Advertising and Marketing Association and serves as the social media chair of the Jersey Shore Public Relations and Marketing Association. She's also a board member of the Long Branch Chamber of Commerce. Lisa received her MA in Corporate and Public Communication from Monmouth University and her BA in Communication from the University of Dayton. I will now turn it over to Lisa.
Well, thank you, Dominica. I really appreciate that warm welcome, and welcome everyone who's on board with us today. I'm looking forward to sharing some awesome information about social media and how you can create a strategy to build your personal and professional brand. Because today, social media and really a lot of online resources provide you with free opportunities to increase your brand recognition and help you connect with your patients, educators, your communities, and so much more. And if you take a proactive, strategic approach, you can develop and increase your brand relevance and your value proposition, literally the brand of you, because things have changed today, as you're well aware, and with the economy the way it is and the way people look at things, it's no longer a brand as a company or a product, but people and you can become the brand of you. And we're hoping that we can share some really good information today to let you see how you can move that forward for yourself. So let's get started. How has social media changed the landscape? Social media now breaks down those barriers for those of us who have a message to deliver to any audience. The days of the David versus Goliath, where you had to have tons of money to really get into advertising and be known, are gone. And social media offers you a great opportunity to really be heard and connect with people with very little money or no money, because most of the tools that are out there are free. And you can create relationships because it's social. And that's very important because you know people buy or interact with people they know and trust. So social media gives you that opportunity to create those relationships in those communities. Now the marketing and public relations aspects of it are really huge because of the viral. And when we talk about viral, you know, we may think of it in terms of those YouTube videos that we hear about all the time, right? The puppies, which just people have millions of hits, or you know, the dancing wedding party, which you know went viral and they were on every talk show after a while. That's really not what we're looking for, but by all means, if it happens for you, we'd be thrilled and be awesome if you could get that kind of viral effect. But viral for, you know, the brand of you, if you're looking at it from that respect, really means you're making an impact when your information is shared with tens or hundreds or maybe thousands. So to put the bar at that level is not what we're seeing, but we're looking to see you get reach much farther than you would have with very low costs involved. The other part of that is your reputation management. You know, we hear a lot about privacy and that, you know, people are looking and searching social media and searching Google, you know, to get information about you. But that's really something you do have total control over, especially with a strategic approach. You have total control over what you put out there, of what pictures you post, of the information you share. So you just need to be thoughtful about controlling what's out there that people find about you, and then you'll have a good reputation online. Social proof. Many of you may not have heard of that term. If you have, that's wonderful, because it is a very important term when it comes to social media today. Social proof is the positive influence created when someone finds out that others are doing something. It's also known as informational social influence. So people are really wired to learn from the actions of others, and this can be a huge driver of consumer behavior. So how does that relate to you in social media? Well, the best example I can give is a blog post. Comments are social proof. Once people start commenting and the conversation starts flowing, people will start interacting. The same thing with the like button that you'll see on many social media sites, the like or the tweet or the share. All that is social proof. And when people see other people doing it, they're more likely to get involved, and they're looking for that. And then the last thing really is the power of connecting with influencers. And it makes it so much easier when you use social media tools to find the people that are influencers in your area. So an influencer in my area would be someone in social media. An influencer in your area may be someone in education, health education, that has a great reputation, has a great reach, has a good following. And if you can connect with them, then they can help promote your brand. So that's the difference here, because they're much more reachable within social media. Now, social media really is related to search. I talk about search engine optimization because search engine optimization is how people find you, right? And people start with search. If I meet someone in a meeting, many times I'll go back to my office and I'll look them up. I'll put their name in and then search them, right? So people start with search when they are looking someone up, or they have a need, or they want to gain some research or knowledge about a person, product, or service. And what's interesting is that 46% of our searches are known for that. People go there looking for search. And the other part of it is, of course, is 80% of Google users only look past the first two, don't look past the first 2 pages. So you really want that relevance that you show up in that first page, mostly, if that's not that second page, because no one's going to go past that. So you want to manage to the best that you can organically the information that shows up on the first page of a search, organically. So organically means you're doing everything through your own power. You're not paying for it. That's the difference here. So I think we're going to do a poll. Dominica, let's put a poll up that says, when was the last time you Googled yourself? Is that up there, Dominica?
Yep, I see people are answering. So
okay,
let's just
great.
give it another minute. It looks like about 65% of people are voting right now. So, yep.
All right, I'm not seeing it, so you're going to have to let me know the results. How's that?
Yeah, absolutely. So at this point, 16% in the last month, 37% in the last 6 months, 26% in the last year, and 21% never. So looks like 37% in the last 6 months people is a winner.
That's the largest piece of it. Okay, terrific. Well, thank you all for participating in our poll. We're actually going to be doing several polls throughout this, so we're going to ask you to interact with us throughout this. So if you're looking at why is that important, why is it important that you Google yourself? Well, people are Googling you, and you want to know what's being seen up there, correct? And you want to make it easy for people to find you. So if you know what's being seen up there, it could be some old stuff that hasn't been up, that was put up in an article from 5 years ago that you were quoted in. Or it could be information that you really don't want to be seen. Not that you've done anything wrong, but it just doesn't look favorable to you. You want more of your professional information. If you're blogging, if you're doing really good professional things, you want that to show up. Okay, so why is that important? So it's important because the Google algorithm puts an emphasis on social media and content creation. The Google algorithm now wants you to have social media in your mix. So by you being involved in some social media platforms, it helps you come up in Google search. Especially for your brand of you, because many of you may not have a website. You may be a part of a website in a bio, on your company, or you may have a website for your business, but you need to figure out how many more ways can Google find you. And that's where it comes in, okay? And there are other great opportunities that you can connect and engage with these tools, right, when it comes to social media. I mentioned earlier that reputation management. You want to Google yourself frequently. So those of you that in the last 6 months, you need to do a little bit more. The nevers, you need to do it. The last year, the last month, kudos to 16%. I would recommend at a minimum Google yourself once a month. Just do it. And as a tip, do not do it from your computer. Do it from someone else's, because Google remembers, they cache the information. But when you do that, what you'll end up doing is developing yourself as an expert, the go-to person, because you're going to manage what shows up. And let me give you an example of what that looks like. Now, this might be a little bit hard to read on your screen, but I'm going to just tell you what happens if you do a Google search of me, because I've managed this for several years, and it takes some time, all right? And as you notice, my website's the first thing that comes up, and that's what I want. But look right after that, my LinkedIn profile, my social media, my YouTube channel, my Twitter, iTunes, as Dominica mentioned, I have a radio show, Facebook and Google+. My entire first page, I have complete control over. Complete control. You can do this too by proactively, strategically engaging with social media. So you want to look at that opportunity as we go through some of the things today on how can you do that. So where do you start? Social media is a marathon, not a sprint. I love to also say it's really like a marriage. It's not a one-night stand. You really have to go in for the long haul when it comes to using social media. It's not a one-hit campaign with a beginning, middle, and end, what you're used to doing in old times, traditional marketing. It takes time to build momentum. You have a commitment of consistency to doing this, and it will pay off for you. You establish your credibility over time by providing good information, by posting articles, by engaging with people, by videos, whatever way you choose to share content and information, you're going to establish yourself as a credible person and someone to follow and watch. And don't be discouraged if you don't achieve results right away, because you need to have that long-term perspective. You can't just hop right in and then expect things to happen. Many times you will get positive results right away. But the other thing with social media is things change, so you have to adapt to it as things change over time. So something that may be working today may not work tomorrow. So you really need to have that consistent input with it, okay? So from there, we're going to go to the strategic approach. And let's do a poll here, I think, Dominica. We have a poll. It is,
yes,
what is your primary social media goal? So if you're going to engage in social media, why are you going to do it? Why don't you read that for everyone, so since you can see it up there.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, if you guys could please respond if you see it. We're starting to get some responses. Terrific. We'll just give people another minute to respond. Okay, great. Okay, so it looks like the votes are stopping coming in. So we have 28% become the go-to person or expert status. 53% provide education in educational information and resources. 11% identify new ideas, and 5% increase website traffic. 0 drive traffic to your events.
Okay. Terrific. Great. Thank you, everyone, again, for participating in our poll. Great information, because now it helps me tweak a little bit what we're talking about, because it looks like most of you are looking to be the go-to person or expert, and even more so provide educational information and resources. And that is wonderful news, because you know what? That's what social media provides. People are looking for the web and social media to get information. Okay? So if you're going to take a strategic approach and you've identified this is your goal, right? Who is your audience? Who are you talking to? You may say everyone's my target market, but you know that really is not going to get you results. Even though you could provide services or information to everyone, because it may have some relevance, the more you can get specific to who you're talking to, the better. And then that will drive your communication within social media. And are you listening and engaging, just not promoting? A big no in social media is sell, 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 sell. So you want to be able to have a strategic approach of listening and engaging and responding, not just promoting. And of course, your goals, knowing what they are, because you should be goal-driven. And then what do you need to achieve these goals? That's a big part of this, because you may need some resources. You may need some education and get over a learning curve on how to use some of the social media platforms so that you're very comfortable with them. So you want to take some time to know ahead of time, what do you need? You may have a boss who's not pro social media, so you may have to overcome some obstacles to get the time to use it. And then how much time do you need? Because that's the big time, that's the big hole. I hear it so much. Oh my gosh, how much time? And we're going to talk about that a little bit today on how you're going to get that into your schedule. And why is it important? Why is it important? Because if it's not important and you don't have a compelling reason why you should be doing this, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to do it. That's just a flat-out reason I hear more and more and more. I'm not doing social media, and the reason I feel people aren't doing it is because they haven't given it the priority in their work schedule and what they need to accomplish to meet their goals that they need to give it. And what's going to get in your way? Things get in your way. Life happens. Work happens. We have, clients and communities and people we have to interact with, and this is another thing. So you have to figure that out ahead of time. And by all means, how will you measure success? Success is going to be different for each one of you. But what is that? If your goal should be related to your success, if your goal is to become the go-to person and expert status, measuring success could be, if you've got a very vibrant Twitter account going, that a journalist contacts you. Because many journalists are using Twitter now to find their resources. Or it could be, if you're looking for educational information, you're getting a share on an article that you posted that, did go viral. Or you posted a video that got a great response, and maybe even your local cable station picked up on it. So you want to look at how are you going to measure that. And those may be far-reaching, right now, but maybe a year from now, those could be very realistic goals and objectives to go for. So make sure you're clear on those things before you get into it. So what are some key factors you need to build your brand? Because you know your goals, you know where you want to take it, but where do you get started? So first of all, you need to complete your profiles on the platforms you're going to use. And we're going to talk about the different ones that are out there. We're going to bring them up on the screen shortly. But whatever platform it is, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, an online forum, whatever it is, that profile needs to be consistent and completed. And I find many people don't take the time to do that. And that's huge because people look at those profiles and it needs to really communicate that brand of you. And you optimize those profiles with Google search by adding keywords. And it may not be very comfortable sometimes, like, oh my gosh, keywords, really? But think about it. People like you put keywords in for search. So what keywords are relevant to what you do in your brand so people find you? How else do you become that expert or go-to person if they can't find you? So you want to think about that. Ask for recommendations. Ask for referrals. Ask for reviews. Ask for testimonials. You have to ask. People are not as giving as you would hope, I think. And if you just ask them for them, they'll give them. You need to make connections, followers, contacts. You need to be proactive in building that tribe. You need to ask people to be a part of it. And you need to engage with them to do that. So you're going to ask them, but you also have that communication, that conversation. You need to show them you care and you want to be a part of it. And you do that by sharing and connecting, sharing those wonderful articles and that educational resource that you have that they need to know about. And that's how you'll be that go-to person in your area of expertise. If you do these things, that will elevate you, that you are the go-to person. They're going to know you for that area of expertise that you've been promoting because you're being very consistent and strategic in how you're delivering that. So now that you know some of the key factors you need to do, what are some of the best practices when it comes to creating that social media strategy? The first thing is be realistic. This can be completely overwhelming for so many people. I know that. And people look at me all the time and say, Lisa, how do you do it? I said, one thing, I've been doing it for a very, very long time, so I've got some great systems and processes in place. But if I can do it, so can you. I know that. But you have to be realistic. It takes a little bit of time, and you need to be committed to it. You know, it's not the end-all be-all. Social media is a piece of your overall strategic marketing for delivering the brand of you and who you are and how you're going to present yourself. You need to be a part of it. And you need to know it's going to take some time to build that following. There's a substantial learning curve. You know, that's why you're part of this particular webinar, is that you want to learn more about how you do this well and do it right so that you can move forward and be productive and successful at doing it. And of course, it's always evolving and changing, always. I was teaching an Intro to LinkedIn course last night here at the local community college. I submit my workbooks usually a day or so before because social media changes. Would you not know, I submitted my book on Friday. I taught the class last night. Between Friday and yesterday, LinkedIn changed. They're putting out a whole new profile system, and they changed some of their navigation. I'm like, so you just go with the flow. You know it's going to change. It's going to, you know, but I heard people going crazy about the timeline with Facebook, and they hated it. Guess what? It's going to change. So if you embrace the change, you'll be much more better prepared to move with it and take advantage of what it offers you than fighting with it. And then make sure you link those goals to that return on investment. We talked about what are those goals. If you're going to be the go-to person, if you're really going to want to share that information, how are you going to really get that return on investment? Look for that. You know, make sure there's a connection there. So your best practices when you're going to get started is, number one, know your ideal audience. Know your ideal audience. This is different than everybody can use what I offer. That may not be true, but you need to carve out and say, who am I really speaking to? And there are rules and etiquette in social media. The first one I mentioned earlier was do not sell. And selling could be just over promoting yourself. You know, in the context of some people have a product to sell, it could be overkill. But even if you're over promoting, you know, be educational, be conversational, be engaging. And build your network. Be proactive. Build your network. Don't expect people to come to you. Go after them. Reach out to people and involve them. And then create, repurpose, share content. Content is king. You know that. That Google algorithm is looking for social media and content. You want to continually to be putting fresh content out there. So you have to think a little bit differently. Content is now everything. It is your status updates. It is your photos. It's your videos. It's your articles. It is your events. It's anything that you're posting and publishing as information and education out on the social web. All that digital stuff is content. So don't let it be prohibitive to you to think of it that it's this big blog post or a huge article or it's overwhelming. It's not that big. And look at how other people are doing it so that you can model them as well. That may help you. And then engage and comment. I think one of the biggest mistakes many people make is they post something up there and then they don't respond. A lot of big brands do it. So, boy, for you to be even better than the big brands and get better recognition is for you to get out there and engage with the folks who comment and get involved with responding to what information you put out there. And if they don't, you know, get involved a little bit and post a question out there. You know, see if you can, you know, get a little bit more interaction if you could. And be consistent. So whatever platforms you decide to use, because you may not want to go all out and try everything. You may start small with a blog or LinkedIn or a Facebook page. But whatever you decide, be consistent. Use your name, use your photo, and or use your logo, but don't change it up everywhere you go. You know, those keywords, that description of who you are, make sure it's consistent everywhere. That's a good thing. And that thinking like a publisher. You know, thinking it content every time you know, it's wonderful with smartphones today. You know, I have an iPhone, which is just, you know, everything to me now. It's a great camera. I can take pictures anywhere. So you can take a photo at any time of, you know, something you're doing, a poster that you may have just done. You know, take a picture of that poster, post that on as a piece of content. You can take a picture of an event that you're doing. So you can get creative. You know, if you're talking about nutrition, you know, put out the latest bounty that you got from the farmer's market, take a picture of it, and you can put that out there. So there's a lot of things you can think creatively about when it comes to putting content out there, but you have to think with that publisher hat on. And then create an editorial calendar. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in this session, because creating an editorial calendar will help you manage your time, be strategic, and get things out there and be consistent about it. So ways that you can connect and be an influencer, so you are that go-to person. And these are the most popular ones, and I don't recommend you do them all. So as you're looking at that list right now, think about, of the platforms there, which ones are you already on? Which ones are you already on? And how are you using them? So if you're on Facebook, you're maybe on Facebook just for your personal reasons, right? You're connecting with your family and your friends and all those other things. You may not have a Facebook page. But if your audience is on Facebook, then maybe a page is a good place for you to be. Twitter, I mentioned earlier, Twitter really is a huge resource now for journalists. So if you're looking to get quoted as a resource, or get some connections with the press, or connect with other influencers, they're all on Twitter. That might be a great place for you to put your toe in and see if it makes sense for you to try that out if you're not there already. Blogging. Blogging is just huge. There's hundreds of thousands of blogs out there. I didn't put this up there, but I'll post this in the comments on the discussion board later, Dominica. But there is a blog search engine called Technorati, TECHNORATI.com. And we'll post this in the comments on the discussion board, so you can go to that link later on. Technorati is the search engine for blogs. So you can go there and search what blogs are out there already talking about your area of expertise. And maybe you just want to engage with them and comment on them and get known with all those influencers. And that might be a good start. Or you may start your own blog. Maybe go out there and see what's out in the playing field first, and then start your own. But a blog is a great way to get recognition and to be seen and gain some followers and put really great content out. LinkedIn, the professional network, that's an opportunity if you're looking to connect on that professional level. LinkedIn groups, phenomenal opportunity. Is there a Surround Health group, Dominica? She heard me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes.
Absolutely. Is it? Yeah. So, and is there a Facebook group as well?
Yes, and a Twitter. Yep.
And Twitter. So, they have, that's already out there. You can connect with them. But LinkedIn, it's another avenue. Maybe you want to stick with the professional first. You want to build your resume, so to speak, on LinkedIn, and use that exclusively, because LinkedIn alone has huge opportunities. Google Plus, been around now for a little while. It hasn't gained as much traction as I thought it would, but by all means, a lot of people are using Google Plus. I think we're up to about 40 million, so it doesn't quite match the 120 million on LinkedIn or the billion on Facebook, but there is an audience there that may be your audience. And by the way, Google Plus is predominantly male. So if you are trying to reach a male audience, that might be the place you want to hang, because you know they're there. So that's when you're being strategic, play where your audience is and spend your time there. And then the bottom part here, I've got the listservs, the message boards, the forums. There's another whole level here where you can communicate with your colleagues, peers, or your communities and be a great resource and provide information and educational information. And then you became elevated as that go-to person. So when you're looking at where do you begin, where do you go from here, look at where you are now. So if you're going to take a list, start with where am I right now? Okay? And where are you looking to go based on those goals? Which of these platforms will help you get there? So if your platform is, if you're thinking a Facebook page, then how do you get started with that? And what tools do you need to get that going for you? Making sure those profiles are 100% complete. A little tidbit about LinkedIn. I like to share this because many people, maybe they don't put a photo up on LinkedIn, or they don't complete everything. And if you're on LinkedIn and you're completing your profile, on that right side, they tell you if you're the 100% complete or not when you're in your profile. LinkedIn will not give you a higher ranking in search if someone's looking for you unless your profile is at 100%. So just a little tidbit, if you're not 100% in LinkedIn and you want to use that platform, make sure you utilize all the tools that are available for that profile and get there plus. because then when people are looking for the resource and the go-to person, you're going to show up at 100%. Okay? I hope that's helpful to any of you. And once again, your message boards and forums. I know, Surround Health has them, and I'm sure all of your individual areas and communities have them. Research them, look for the ones that make sense for you to be in, and maybe try it. I mentioned this, back to LinkedIn with the groups, and also with Facebook groups. If it doesn't work for you, leave it. There are some groups out there you're not sure if they're going to be the right interaction for you. So if it's not the right thing for you, it's okay to leave it. It's okay to move on. It really does make sense, to say it's not a good fit for you. Nothing is solid and forever. It's social media, and count on it, it will change tomorrow. Okay. So hopefully that was helpful, and you have a better understanding definitely of where you're going to go from here. What's your priority? Where are you already? If you already have something running, where can you take it to the next level, and what can you add to that? And one thing I didn't put on here, Dominica, I wasn't thinking, when I put this, YouTube's not on here because it's kind of out there, but YouTube is the second largest search engine after Google, right? Google and YouTube are big search engines. So if you have an opportunity to use video in what you do, by all means, you want to set up a YouTube channel to store those videos. And then that can be an opportunity for you to get higher rankings in search as well. So if it's not for everyone, and I understand that, but for those of you that are looking at that opportunity, by all means, take advantage of it. Okay, so let's do a poll. All right, in case anyone's got tired of me droning on here, let's ask a poll question. How much time will you schedule for social media? What do you think?
Okay, so we're starting to see responses coming in. So it looks like, okay, I'll just give everyone another minute just to complete. So the choices are 1 hour a day, 3 hours per week, once a month, and I don't have any extra time. Okay, so it looks like they're slowing down. So it looks like 30% for 1 hour a day, 40% for 3 hours per week, 20% for once a week, 5% once a month, and 5% said that they don't have any time.
I appreciate your honesty because I know many of us feel like we don't have any extra time, right? And how do you fit it in? But if you make this a priority and you make this a part of your strategy to become known, then you'll find the time. So and if you have an hour a day or 3 hours per week, that's wonderful. I mean, that's 70% of you. So that's a commitment that you should hold yourself to and put it in your calendar. So how do you manage that? What are some best practices and ways you should chunk up that time? Because when I tell people, for me personally, and I've been doing this a while, my social media that I do per day is about 15 minutes a day. You're like, oh my gosh, how do you do it for 15 minutes? But 15 minutes a day is when I'm actually posting and putting things out there, okay? When I'm actually interacting, engaging, talking to people, and sharing some information. But when I'm creating content, that's done at a different time. So just you're aware, just in any other marketing, collateral, information, if you're writing a blog, if you're writing an article, some of that content has to fall in other places. So you need to kind of put that aside as well, if you understand what I mean by that. So when you're actually doing social media, that makes it a little more manageable. Think about it. If you only have that an hour a day or a few hours a week. There's another piece of that you got to think about. You're creating content or you're gathering content. So when you're in there, you're going to spend a quarter of that time listening. Listening. That means not lurking and listening are two different things. So some of us are like lurkers. We just like to look at everything, but we never get involved in it, right? So quarter time is you're listening is really just to see what else is going on out there. It can be done from a listening perspective to what your audience is talking about, to find out what their needs are, what their wants are, what kind of information they're looking to share, what are their issues, whether their struggles, their obstacles, whatever it is that you provide to them. Listening to your audience will help you so that you know what kind of content to deliver to them. So you're responsive to what they're looking for, not what you think they need. That's where social media can help you. Quarter of that time listening, by the way, can also be used to your competitive advantage. You can set it up where you can put search terms into your competition. if you have any competition out there that, you need to, see what they're doing out there. So that can be another opportunity to do some listening. Half of that time that you're doing this is when you're actually commenting, communicating, and sharing. So half of that time is you're engaging, you're commenting, and that means you may be posting some information. Remember I said it takes a little while. So you may be sharing content, and I hear this quite a bit. They're like, nobody's talking to me, nobody's responding. Sometimes you have to give to get. So maybe this is that opportunity where you go into the forum and you get involved with someone else's conversation and you respond to something they're looking for. Or you go out to a blog post that someone else wrote in your industry and you engage and you respond to a blog post that they wrote and tell them, some of the good things that you read in there that were helpful to you, and maybe add a little bit extra. So you see that half-time communicating, commenting, it's not just all about you, it's how you engage with the whole community. And then that quarter time is that creating, finding content. Either you're going to create it yourself or finding it. And this is when you're out there searching. What I find, for me personally, LinkedIn Today, if you're on LinkedIn, they've got this piece of it called LinkedIn Today. And based on the industry that you've signed up in under your profile, they share you relevant information to your industry. Great information, right at your fingertips. You don't have to go very far to find it. That's very shareable. And Twitter, I find an enormous amount of great content to share on Twitter. So, just a little tip there. If you're looking for content, you don't have a whole lot of time to spend looking for it, there's a great resources to help you, and it makes it very easy to share. You share that content because all those tools are built into the platforms to make it really, really easy for you to share them. Okay? So if you look to break down your time, this is one way to do it. And I'm very pleased to see some of you really are looking to offer some time to do this during your week, because it will pay off for you in the long run. And the last piece really is that social media editorial calendar. Because if you create the editorial calendar, it'll give you strategic direction, because you're thinking ahead about what content you're sharing and what information you want to be put out there. And it absolutely helps you manage your time, because there are so many tools out there to help you do that. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Some time management tools. So some of you may have seen these before, or maybe completely new to the rest of you, so I'm going to go through and explain what they are. And there are others out there, so by all means, if you come across other time management tools, these are just some of the 4 basic ones that will help you if you're just getting started. One is called Hootsuite, H-O-O-T-S-U-I-T-E. You see that on the screen. Hootsuite allows you to post on your Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn accounts. Okay, so you can post to your pages as well as your personal. So you can set up to 5 for free. It is a paid service beyond that. I have yet to pay for it. I'll tell you that right now. So I'm all about free as much as I can get it. So I manage several different accounts, and we keep it up to 5. But Hootsuite's a really good tool if you're looking to schedule things in advance on multiple platforms. So an example using Hootsuite is there are tweets going out while I'm speaking to you all, and I actually scheduled those tweets this morning. I had written them all out in advance based on the content that I'm sharing in the webinar. And I posted, went into Hootsuite, and I told Hootsuite when I wanted those to go out, within this hour, all in advance. So that's a pretty cool tool. So you can do that for a whole week in advance, a whole month in advance for all those platforms. Now you want to think about, when you're talking editorial calendar, some of it could make sense. You know when you have events coming up that you're going to be planning ahead for. You know about times of year that are relevant to what you're doing, whether it's the holidays or, there's a day of breast cancer awareness or whatever. You know there's those things out there, so you can plan those in advance. But you also have to have time when you are online to be responsive to immediate things that are happening. So it's a mix. But these tools absolutely will help you at least create that consistency of being out there. Especially if you go on vacation. Think about it. You can at least have a consistent message going out even if you take some time off and you take a social media break. TweetDeck, whereas Hootsuite is a online based, it's in a browser. You open it up in a browser, so you need internet connection there. TweetDeck is actually something that you install on your desktop. It does very similar things that Hootsuite does. It's just a different way it interacts, but it's very similar. That you can schedule in advance, and you can have different platforms you post to at the same time. 2 other things, though, if you're not going to go that broad, okay, if you don't want to jump in and have 5 different platforms going, you want to stay small and do something well from the beginning, If you do Facebook for pages, they now allow for advanced scheduling. So you can post your comments, your status updates, your videos, your pictures, anything you want in advance. And you can schedule that in Facebook now. That's a very new feature that they just started in the last few months, and lots of people are happy about that. So you can plan your Facebook posts in advance. And then blogs. If you're using a blog platform, I use WordPress, but bloggers out there as well as TypePad, most blogs allow you as well to schedule your blogs in advance. So if your time that you have to write your blog is Friday afternoons because that's when it's quiet, but posting it Friday afternoon is not the best time for people to see it because your audience, right? You know when they're engaged, you know when they're paying attention. Maybe Tuesday night is a better time. You can still write the blog on Friday and then schedule it to go posted on Tuesday night. So those are all great time management tools for you that you can look ahead and say, okay, when do I want this information to be shared? When it makes sense, when people will see it. But here's when I have the time to do it. It just amazes me how many people get up and get on social media, and they're up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they do all their posts. Well, who else is up at 8 o'clock in the morning looking at social media? When we know people go to their social media at different times of the day based on who their audience is that you're trying to reach. So we're going to talk a little bit about the editorial calendar because I did mention that and the importance of it. So with the editorial calendar, you're going to create a calendar that makes sense for you to plan ahead of what type of content you're going to post, where you're going to post it, and when you're going to post it. So what channels are you going to use? We talked about, are you going to use Facebook, a blog, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Google+, your message boards, or your forums? You want to list them out. Where are you going to play? What's the space you're going to be in? You don't have to be in all of them. What makes sense for you? And then what are those elements? What are the things, the stuff you have to do, right? Is it going to be, you're going to have status updates. You need to get the content together. You need to look at the time of day, so you may have to look at your analytics a little bit and how you're going to track this. All right? And then you want to specify, what are those goals that are going to relate back to this, because you need to have that goal in mind. If you're going to be educational, and sharing content, that's what you're sharing. You can give a little bit of your personality in there. People like to know who you are and what you're doing, but that's what your goal is. You don't want to go off topic if that's what your goal is. But you want to know how many times you're going to be posting. So you're going to look at it from a daily, a weekly, and a monthly task. That's going to manage your time. So you're going to know how much time you're going to need here for each of these things. And you're also going to look at the types of content you're going to share. The types of content you're going to share. Is it going to be status updates? Is it going to be an article, a blog post? If you put a newsletter out, you can repurpose that out there. Photos, videos, events, the same thing there. The key thing is your strategy, your content editorial calendar, and your strategy needs to be as detailed as possible. So it may be hard for some of you who are not detail-oriented, but the payoff is just enormous if you spend the time to get it set up in the beginning. Because then it makes your content development creation easier, it's easier to manage, and it provides consistency in your brand. So what does that look like if you're saying, oh my gosh, what are we talking about? So this is a social media editorial calendar that I had actually created for my business. And believe it or not, this was done, I think, in May of 2011. I've changed it a few times since then because it evolves with me, because I include different platforms and I'm doing different things. So when you set this up, it may change over time, but you at least need a place to get started. So in this particular case, what I had done was I created a weekly schedule of the types of content that I'm going to be using and sharing. And this is on an Excel spreadsheet. So if you look at that left-hand side, you see I have a blog post, my e-newsletter, some events, photos, video, polls, and that's my content. Your content could be very similar or very different depending on what it is. And then I divided it by week. You may, like I said, you may do a different approach and do every day if it makes sense for you, if it makes it easier for you. Whatever makes sense for you is what I'm telling you. So you've got that column with the content, what you're going to be sharing, and what you're going to look for. So if you're going ahead and you're saying, okay, I'm going to do my month, and here's my calendar, you know exactly what you need to do for the entire month. And then from there, you're filling in the blanks. so that you're active and engaging and communicating and can be focused on that rather than creating the content to go out there. Okay, so I do have a little link there, that bit.ly, and I can also put that on the discussion forum if you want, Dominica. That goes to a blog post that I wrote about with this editorial calendar. The blog post, it gives step-by-step how to create it, and there's a PDF that you can download at the end if you want the PDF to print out and see more about it. So by all means, if that will be helpful to all of you, we can do that as well. And I'm looking at the time. Dominica, it goes so fast. Oh, my gosh.
I know, it definitely does. Well, thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah.
That was terrific.
I have one more thing, as we're wrapping up, and I'm going to get people's questions. I hope we have lots of questions.
We do.
Good. I do have a free ebook that I'm going to have Dominica post out on the forum as well. It's on how to use LinkedIn for networking. So I'm going to make that available to everyone who's on the call. If you would like to, we'll post that in the forum. So go out there, grab it, download it, and by all means, if you find it helpful, and you see things and you like, post that in the forum as well, so people can discuss and share that and things they're finding that are good. So let's get started with some questions.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Lisa. So I just want to mention, so the forum that Lisa is talking about is located within Surround Health. Lisa has generously offered to spend the next 5 days monitoring the discussion board within Surround Health. So you will receive a link to that in the follow-up email, or if you want to access it right away, I have posted it in featured content. So right when you log into Surround Health, you can see it right in featured content section. So you can just access that right away. So, but yeah, as you mentioned, so let's get started with some questions. So the first one is from somebody who looks like is a fairly new job seeker, and they're looking to start building their online presence more and more. So where do you suggest they start first with?
Okay.
Seems like it's very overwhelming to them right now.
Absolutely. If you're a job seeker, by all means, I recommend LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a professional network, but it's also set up so that you have an online resume. So if you're, and the tools within LinkedIn are very helpful for people in career search. It's by all means for all professionals, so don't think if you're not a job seeker that you can't use LinkedIn. But by all means, many recruiters are looking out there. The jobs that are listed in LinkedIn are very, very helpful and very specific and pretty high-level jobs, I've noticed. They're very professional jobs, so that'd be a great place for you to look. But make sure that profile is 100% complete and has really good keywords in there, that people would look for if they're looking for you, and that you tell your story. That's really important. There's a piece in LinkedIn that's called a summary. And whether you're a job seeker or a professional, use that content right there in that summary to tell your story about who you are and why people should engage with you. Because people want to relate to people, remember that. Terrific question. Thank you for whoever asked that.
Okay, awesome. So the next one is from a registered dietitian. And she says, from all the great suggestions you have provided, what are the 1 or 2 steps that you think are most critical to start with? So not so much the platforms, just the steps.
Oh, okay. Well, strategy first, and I know people who know me say, oh my gosh, but it's so, so true. You want to think about what you want to achieve. What are those goals? I think when you all interacted with the poll about what the goals were, you want to know, what are you looking to achieve from this? That's going to help you be more strategic and focused on where you should start. So if you want to be the go-to expert in your field, then that's going to help you know where you should get started. And it could be really knowing who your audience is, not necessarily the platform yet. It could be knowing who the audience is and getting a handle on your online reputation now. And then saying, okay, if my audience hangs out, on Facebook because that's their demographic, then I need to be there. And then that's where you take it to the next level. It could be just doing some research, Dominica. I mean, some people, I think you're aware of this, that social media is a great research tool. So you could be using that just to, as someone trying to get more information about what are the topics that people are asking about, and create your persona and your brand around that instead.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So another question is, it's an interesting one. So my name is very common. How do I go about getting started controlling my Google Me results?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh my gosh, and you are not alone. Then if your name is very common, excuse me, that's where keywords really help. That's where keywords can be very, very beneficial to you, because the more you can link your name to the areas of expertise that you're in, the better. So there's only so many things you can do about your name, right? You want to use the name most people know you for. So if you're you know, Deborah, but you go by Deb or Debbie, maybe that would be, you know, go use the Debbie. It just may be a little bit easier for people to find you, and you may get you out of that clutter. So think about how you use your name and how you're most frequently seen, you know, or talked about. Second thing is, look who else is in your space. So if you're doing that Google search and you have a common name, what's the other common name? You know, if you're up against, you know, someone like a Will Smith, you know, or, you know, a very, very common name, you may have to be very strategic by getting well known within each platform, okay? So you may have to try and elevate some status within a LinkedIn group or within a forum or a discussion group, and you may have to start there first to get some traction, if that's helpful.
Okay, great. So the next question is, what if I work with several registered dietitians in my practice? Should we be building our practice brand under the practice name or profile, or should we each build your own brand individually? Which has the greatest impact and connection?
Well, Dominique, I'm going to say that it depends. But it depends about how you're formed, okay? So you have to look about your practice together. Where is your priority and your goal for the practice? If it's because you want the practice to be seen first, then that's how you start with your brand. If the individuals bring to the practice, then you go with the individual. So if each of you has a very different marketing view, or a different marketing, what's the word I'm looking for, where people know you, you know, if it's an expertise in an area, or you be found, or you have a different interest. I mean, you could even split it up where one of you takes Facebook, one of you takes LinkedIn. I mean, so there's a lot of ways you could look at this. So it's a really good question. It depends on what you want to accomplish. If you each want to take a piece of it, then you could do it that way and still elevate the brand for the practice. Or you could each take your individuals and spread yourself out amongst all the platforms. You know, but what's your final goal? If the final goal is just to build the practice and you all bring something to the table, go for the practice. You're going to find it's a little bit easier to manage, and you're all a part of that. So and all those keywords and all that information, you're using that. So you're making sure it's very integrated. And just be strategic when you think about how you push that out. Great question. Thank you.
Okay, so the next question, and it looks like it might be our last unless any others come through. So you suggested to Google ourselves once every month. Do you have a guideline on how to make the first Google page / search just like yours?
Takes time. Yes, the guideline is pretty much what we discussed in the webinar. You want to engage in social media and create content. Those are the two things that Google has specified that it's looking for in order to elevate you in search organically. So if you're not paying for it, you know, there's all those paid ads you see. If you really want to do it, your key thing is social media, which platforms. If you use them all, it's absolutely going to be helpful. If you don't want to use them all, it's going to take a little bit more time. You have to be more strategic in placing yourself in other places. So if you write articles, maybe you want to see if you can guest blog somewhere else so that you don't have to manage a blog, but you put some guest blog posts out on other platforms, you know, other people's platforms. So you want to think about how can you get yourself out there with the most coverage with the time that you have and the platforms that make sense for you. In my case, literally, you know, because I'm so involved in all the platforms, it's taken years to get there. So by all means, don't think this happened overnight. It took a considerable amount of time and investment and work of creating content and getting out there for all that to show up the way it does today. Several years of time. But the more you do it, the easier it gets and the more you'll stay up there. So think about which platforms you're using, and make sure if you're in those platforms you're consistently creating content and consistently posting and involved, and that'll help you get there. Very good question. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So it looks like we are out of questions and also are starting to wind down on the time. So thank you so much, Lisa, for a really informative and terrific presentation. We really appreciate it. And thanks again to everyone who has attended. We hope you can join us for our next webinar, which will be held on November 7th, which is all about carving out a leadership role in healthcare. As we mentioned, there will be an ongoing discussion with Lisa within the webinar topic in Surround Health, and also you can access it by going to the featured content section, and Lisa is giving away some nice links within that discussion, so we hope you can join us for that. And also your webinar completion certificate will be available in the Surround Health profile by next week, and that's for the RD and for the CHES credits for which we have been pre-approved. So thank you again, everyone, and please be sure to complete our feedback survey at the end. Have a great day.